Alright, what is up everyone? It is your boy Peter coming at you, live from my slightly messy but always inspiring home office. Many people ask me, Peter, what is the secret to making serious dough? I tell them the truth, but nobody ever believes me. They want a magic pill, a secret crypto coin, a foolproof stock tip. But the real secret, my friends, is boring. It is consistent, and it is brutally simple. Today, we're not just talking about money, we're talking about life, your 20s, to be precise, and how to stop screwing them up. Because let's be real, your 20s, they're not what you think they are. That perfectly filtered path you see others taking, the one with the perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect house, that is a highlight reel, folks, not reality. It is like watching a movie trailer and thinking you've seen the whole plot today. I'm sharing what actually matters, not what society, or your overly optimistic social media feed, says should matter. The greatest freedom of your 20s isn't having it all figured out. It is realizing nobody does. Seriously, nobody, not even that one friend who posts motivational quotes every morning. We're fed this narrative that success in your 20s means checking certain boxes by specific ages. Graduate by 22, career by 23, relationship by 25, house by 28, kids by 30. It is like a financial bingo card. And if you don't hit all the numbers, you lose. But here is what is actually happening behind those Instagram posts. The ones carefully curated to project an image of effortless perfection. Most people are experimenting, failing, starting over, and feeling exactly like you do. Uncertain, this isn't a bug in the system, my friends. It is the whole point. The difference between those who thrive in their 20s and those who merely survive isn't having perfect plans. It is embracing the uncertainty. It is learning to dance in the rain, or better yet, learning to build a sturdy umbrella. I've talked with hundreds of people in their 30s and 40s about their 20s. The question I always ask them is simple, but profound. What do you wish you'd known? And you know what? Nobody, not a single soul, has ever said, I wish I'd had my life more figured out. Instead, they wish they'd worried less, experimented more, and understood that the winding path, the messy, unpredictable path, is the path. It is not a detour. It is the main highway. Think about it like this. Your 20s aren't the final performance. They're the dress rehearsal. A dress rehearsal where mistakes are not only expected, but they're incredibly valuable. It is your chance to mess up, learn, and get better before opening night. So the first thing that actually matters in your 20s, unlearning the myth that you should have it all figured out. This single mindset shift, my friends, will free you to explore, experiment, and evolve without the crushing pressure of perfection. This isn't going according to plan, isn't a failure state. It is literally the plan. We're all scrolling through perfectly curated lives, wondering why ours feels so unscripted, so chaotic, so, well, real. But behind those perfect posts, everyone's just figuring it out step by step. It is like a secret club of 20-somethings, where everyone is silently panicking about their life choices, while nodding confidently in public. You're not alone in this beautiful chaos. Trust me. We've all been there. Remember that sinking feeling when someone younger than you got promoted? Yeah, we need to talk about comparison. The fastest way to steal your joy, your peace, your sanity. It is hilarious how we expect to have our entire future mapped out, when half of us still aren't sure if we're loading the dishwasher correctly. Seriously, is the fork facing up or down? The struggle is real. Chapter 1. The Identity Laboratory. Your 20s are the ultimate identity laboratory. No other decade gives you this much freedom to experiment with who you are and who you might become. And contra self-discovery isn't something that happens to you once. Like getting a driver's license, it is an active, ongoing process, a continuous peeling back of layers, and your 20s are prime time for this exploration. Think about it. You're independent enough to make your own choices, but flexible enough that these choices don't yet define your entire life. The goal isn't finding your one true self, like some kind of existential treasure hunt, but rather discovering the multiple versions of yourself that could exist. Every new experience, relationship, or environment reveals different facets of who you are. And contrary to what social media suggests, changing your mind isn't a character flaw. It is growth. It is evolution. It is a sign that you're actually learning and adapting, instead of asking, what should I do with my life? Which often paralyzes with its enormity. Ask, what can I try next? Maybe it is taking a ceramics class that connects you to creativity you didn't know you had. Or traveling solo to a city where being completely anonymous lets you reinvent yourself temporarily, or working in an industry that challenges your assumptions about what matters to you in a job. Each experiment gives you data about yourself, not final answers, but valuable clues. So what actually matters in your 20s? Creating enough self-knowledge to make choices that align with who you actually are, not who you think you should be, not who your parents want you to be, not who society tells you to be. The person who tries 10 different paths gathers more useful self-knowledge than the one who stays on a single path out of fear or obligation. We all know that person who has been in the same job since college and secretly wonders what else might have been possible. Don't let that become your story, please. The most interesting people in any room are almost always those who've taken unconventional paths, tried multiple careers, or lived in different places. Ever sat awake at night wondering, is this really what I want to be doing with my life? That question deserves exploration, not avoidance. We spend more time researching which TV show to watch next than we do researching potential career paths. And then we wonder why we end up in jobs that make us feel like we're playing a character in someone else's script. It is like showing up to a party in someone else's clothes. It just doesn't feel right. Chapter 2, Relationship Economics. Here is a truth bomb. Not all relationships deserve equal investment. Your 20s are when you learn the hard but liberating lesson that relationship quality trumps quantity every single time. In your teens, friendships often form through proximity. Same school, same activities, same neighborhood. It is like a default setting, you're just there, but your 20s introduce a new paradigm, intentional connection. This decade is when you discover the difference between convenience connections and soul connections, the people who energize you versus those who drain you, those who celebrate your growth versus those who prefer you don't change, because your change makes them uncomfortable. And most importantly, you learn that maintaining quality relationships requires active investment. They don't just happen. Like any valuable investment, relationships have compound returns over time, but only if you're investing in the right ones. Think of your relationships like a portfolio. Some are high maintenance with low returns, like a bad stock that keeps losing money, while others require minimal maintenance but yield incredible dividends of support, growth, and joy. The question isn't how can I keep all these connections, but rather which connections are worth cultivating deeply. That friend who always makes you feel better after talking. Investment, that group that leaves you emotionally exhausted. Divestment time, cut your losses. Your energy and time are finite resources. My friends, allocate them to relationships that help both parties become better versions of themselves. What actually matters in your 20s isn't having the most impressive social circle. It is building a genuine support system with mutual growth at its core. The courage to outgrow relationships that no longer serve you creates space for connections that will sustain you through life's inevitable challenges. Quality connections aren't just nice to have, they're essential to well-being. We've all stayed in friendships or relationships past their expiration date, hoping things would change. The relief that comes from finally letting go is unmatched. It is like a breath of fresh air after being underwater. Research consistently shows that strong social connections are better predictors of happiness and longevity than money, status, or even physical health. Remember scrolling through your contacts and realizing you haven't spoken to most of these people in years. That is not a failure. It is natural evolution. We'll spend hours debating whether to keep a $30 shirt we never wear, but hesitate to evaluate whether we should keep relationships that actively make us miserable. Marie Kondo would be appalled at our relationship closets. Seriously, if it doesn't spark joy, get rid of it. Chapter 3, Financial Foundations. Your bank account in your 20s might be small. I get it. Mine was too. But your financial decisions are disproportionately powerful. The money habits you form now will either become your greatest ally or your persistent nemesis for decades to come. Financial literacy isn't something most of us were taught in school, yet it is one of the most consequential skills in adulthood. Your 20s are the perfect time to build this foundation, not because you have lots of money, but because you have time. Time, my friends, is the most powerful force in finance. It is like a superpower. The magic of compound interest means that small, consistent actions now create massive results later. It is not about getting rich quick or impressing others with your fancy car. It is about creating future freedom and options for yourself. The goal isn't deprivation, but intentionality, aligning your spending with what actually brings you lasting value rather than fleeting satisfaction. Let me hit you with some numbers. If you invest $200 monthly starting at age 25, by 65, you'll have about $650,000 at an 8% average return. Now, wait until 35 to start, and you'll have only $295,000. That decade difference is worth over $350,000. Think about that, $350,000 just for starting 10 years earlier. The point isn't to never enjoy your money now. It is understanding that every dollar has potential energy. Creating simple systems like automatic transfers to savings or investment accounts before you can spend bypasses willpower entirely. It is like putting your money on autopilot, so you don't even have to think about it. Your 20s are for learning the difference between assets that grow in value and liabilities that drain your resources. What actually matters isn't how much you earn in your 20s, it is the money mindset you develop. Financial freedom isn't about wealth, it is about options, the ability to make life decisions based on what fulfills you rather than what simply pays the bills. The greatest investment isn't in stocks or crypto, it is in your financial education. We've all made that late-night impulse purchase that seemed essential, only to forget about it weeks later. Meanwhile, our future selves are silently begging us to invest that money instead. The wealth gap between those who understand compound interest and those who don't grows exponentially over time, creating drastically different life options by midlife. Remember that sinking feeling of checking your account balance after a weekend out. Financial peace comes from systems, not willpower. We'll watch a 2-hour YouTube video to save $5 on a purchase, but won't spend 20 minutes learning how our retirement accounts work, even though that knowledge is literally worth thousands. It is insane. Chapter 4, The Health Investment. Your body in your 20s is like a reliable car that keeps running despite terrible maintenance. But don't be fooled. You're not invincible. You're just benefiting from factory settings that won't last forever. Youth creates the illusion of invincibility, but your 20s are actually when you're establishing the health baseline you'll return to for decades. Both physical and mental health habits formed now become your default programming. They get increasingly difficult to rewrite with each passing year. The goal isn't perfection or obsession, but rather intentional investment in your most valuable asset, your health. While the consequences of poor habits might not show up immediately, they're silently accumulating behind the scenes. Conversely, good habits are building resilience and capacity you'll draw on for life. Your future self is already thanking you for what you do today, or wishing you had started sooner. Regular movement, adequate sleep, stress management, and proper nutrition aren't just about looking good. They're fundamental inputs to your energy, mood, cognitive function, and disease prevention. Mental health deserves equal priority. Learning to recognize and process emotions, set boundaries, and seek help when needed are skills, not weaknesses. Starting a simple 5-minute daily meditation practice in your 20s could literally add years of mental clarity to your life. These investments don't require perfection. Consistency of imperfect action beats sporadic perfection every time. What actually matters isn't achieving some idealized body or never experiencing stress. It is building a foundation of health, literacy, and sustainable habits. The relationship you develop with your body and mind in your 20s will be one of your longest and most important relationships in life. Treat it with the care and attention it deserves. We all know that person who still eats like a college student in their 30s, but no longer bounces back the same way. Your metabolism is quietly taking notes on everything you do. Trust me, it remembers. Cultures with the longest lifespans don't obsess over health. They integrate movement, whole foods, and strong social connections as a natural part of daily life. Remember that first time you realized you couldn't stay out all night and feel normal the next day. Your body is beginning to give you feedback. Start listening.